A strange paradox is unfolding. Young adults have more access than ever to ideas about freedom, entrepreneurship, and meaningful work, yet many are craving something far more basic: a stable job, a predictable paycheck, and a future that does not feel impossible to plan. People are quick to say that young workers lack ambition, fear risk, or simply want an easy life. But perhaps their dreams have not disappeared. They may have realized that the cost of earning enough room to pursue those dreams has become much higher. Rent still comes due, bills do not wait for passion, and one job loss can unravel an entire financial plan. A stable job, therefore, becomes more than employment. It can feel like emotional protection, a financial foundation, and proof that life is still under control. This video explores why young adults increasingly value stability, how unemployment anxiety changes behavior, how rising living costs shape career choices, and how to build real security without becoming trapped in a job that no longer fits your life. The story begins with Ethan, 27, a marketing coordinator at a retail company in Chicago. His income covers a small apartment, daily expenses, student loan payments, occasional support for his parents, and a modest social life on the weekends. Ethan's job is not his dream. Most days are filled with repetitive reports, long meetings, and editing campaigns that do not always feel meaningful. Week after week, the routine leaves him more tired, even though the paycheck remains dependable. Many times, Ethan has considered quitting, learning a new skill, freelancing, or building a small project of his own. He wants to feel that his time and abilities are leading somewhere more meaningful than another cycle of tasks and approvals. On social media, Ethan sees people leaving offices, traveling constantly, working from anywhere, and claiming unusually high incomes. Those carefully selected images make his ordinary life appear like a failure, even though he is only seeing the most polished moments of someone else's story. One Monday afternoon, the company calls an emergency meeting and announces a restructuring. Several departments will be reduced, and roles that do not directly support revenue may be changed, consolidated, or eliminated within the next few weeks. Ethan does not lose his job that day, but the chair he once resented suddenly feels valuable. For the first time, he clearly understands that the familiar income supporting his entire routine can disappear through a decision he does not control. After the meeting, Ethan arrives earlier, answers messages faster, accepts extra work, and tries to prove that his role is necessary. He has not suddenly fallen in love with the job. Fear of losing his income has simply changed the way he behaves. Rent, groceries, transportation, phone bills, insurance, student loans, and family responsibilities continue even when a paycheck stops. Ethan's savings would cover only a little more than 1 month, and that narrow margin is what truly frightens him. Without a new job quickly, Ethan might need to use credit cards, give up his apartment, or move back in with family. Those choices would affect more than money. They would make him feel as though his progress into adulthood were being reversed. The same person who once wanted to leave stability for freedom now hopes his name will not appear on the layoff list. When the foundation is thin, people usually focus on avoiding a fall before they can think about flying higher. Ethan's reaction is not unusual. Many young adults live in an economy where wages rise slowly, essential costs rise quickly, opportunities appear endless online, and real-world competition for good positions becomes more intense. The first reason young workers crave stability is the shrinking gap between income and living costs. A higher salary on paper does not necessarily create a greater sense of security when rent, food, insurance, and transportation consume most of it. Housing, food, transportation, education, healthcare, and other basic expenses have all become heavier. The important question is not only how much someone earns, but how much remains after paying for the essentials that cannot be postponed. A monthly take-home pay of $4,200 may sound comfortable, but after $1,600 for housing, $1,000 for food and transportation, and $400 for loans and family support, the remainder must still cover insurance, utilities, savings, and unexpected costs. When the remaining amount is too small, young workers cannot build a meaningful safety margin. They have income, but almost no capacity to absorb a setback, so a job that pays on time becomes more valuable than an impressive title. An illness, a broken car, a family medical bill, or several weeks without work can quickly become a crisis when someone lacks enough cash to handle the problem without borrowing. Without an emergency fund, credit cards, personal loans, or family borrowing become the immediate solution. But that solution moves today's costs into the future, adds interest, and makes keeping the current job feel even more urgent. In that situation, a stable job is viewed as survival cash flow. Young workers may not love the work, but they need reliable income to keep housing, buy food, make loan payments, and meet responsibilities to the people who depend on them. That is why many people do not quit even when they are exhausted, no longer learning, or working in an unhealthy environment. They do not stay because they are weak. They stay because the financial cost of leaving is too high. Someone with 12 months of savings can calmly reject a poor job offer. Someone with only a few weeks of cash may have to prioritize immediate income over long-term growth. The size of the financial cushion changes the quality of every career decision. Choice depends heavily on financial runway. Without savings, every decision feels urgent. With a stronger foundation, people gain time to think, experiment, compare opportunities, and choose a direction that actually fits their values and abilities. Many young adults are not truly searching for a perfect job. They are searching for enough predictable cash flow to breathe, pay essential bills, and avoid making major decisions in panic. That is a rational need, not evidence of laziness or limited ambition. Instead of asking why young workers are afraid to take risks, ask how many months of savings they have, what responsibilities they carry, and who would cover the unavoidable costs if the experiment failed. The second reason is unemployment anxiety. Losing a job is not only the loss of income, it can also disrupt daily structure, weaken confidence, reduce a sense of purpose, and make someone feel disconnected from the wider world. From childhood, people are often asked what they want to become. That simple question teaches many of us to connect career with identity. So when employment disappears, it can feel as though part of the self has disappeared too. When meeting someone new, people often ask where they work, what role they hold, and whether the job pays well. Employment becomes a social measuring stick, even though a person's value is far broader than any title or salary. After losing a job, a young worker may worry about bills and also feel left behind, less capable, or less respected, especially while friends continue receiving promotions, buying homes, and moving into new opportunities. Social media constantly displays other people's best moments, while an unemployed person may send dozens of applications without receiving a reply. That contrast can turn a temporary career setback into a deeply personal sense of failure. It is important to remember that job loss does not always reflect ability. A strong employee can still be affected when a company shrinks, changes strategy, loses customers, or can no longer afford to support a role. An industry that once grew quickly can slow down. A role can be replaced by technology or a new process. Labor markets respond to economic demand, not to a moral judgment about who deserves success. When layoffs become common, friends lose jobs, and companies hire cautiously, young workers naturally look for larger employers, longer contracts, stronger benefits, and clear payroll systems. That desire has a reasonable foundation. People struggle to focus, create, or plan when they constantly fear losing income. Security is not a lesser need. It is the base that gives the mind enough energy to pursue higher goals. When the body and mind feel threatened, people protect what they already have instead of chasing uncertain opportunities. That is a survival response, not proof that ambition has vanished. Someone who once dreamed of starting a business may view a steady paycheck very differently after several months without income. The dream has not disappeared. The nervous system is simply asking for rest, predictability, and a stable next step. The third reason is that financial responsibilities often arrive before young adults have had time to build assets. They enter the workforce with little savings, yet rent, transportation, education, healthcare, and debt payments begin immediately. A new worker may need to pay rent, commute, continue training, cover health costs, and help family members. Each expense may seem reasonable on its own, but together they leave very little room to save. Many people also begin adult life with student loans, credit card balances, equipment financing, or personal debt. Obligations created during low-income years can continue consuming cash flow long after earnings begin to improve. Responsibilities appear immediately, while assets take years to build. That imbalance makes young workers feel they cannot afford a mistake, because one poor decision may require months or years of recovery. A person with strong family support may take several months to study or test a new career. Someone who must cover every expense alone has far less room to experiment. The same advice can carry completely different levels of risk. For someone carrying many obligations, a stable job does not guarantee wealth. It simply lowers the chance of falling too quickly. Stability is more like a guardrail on a steep road than an elevator to success. We need to separate survival from growth. When basic needs are not secure, advice such as quit your job, follow your passion, or leave your comfort zone may sound inspiring, but can be dangerously incomplete. Taking risks is not wrong, but everyone has a different capacity for loss. A decision that makes sense for someone with family support may be reckless for a person paying debt, supporting relatives, and carrying every monthly expense alone. Irregular income may work well for someone with a strong emergency fund, but it can be dangerous for someone managing debt. Before calling another person too cautious, understand the financial structure behind the decision. Choosing stability is not always surrender. It can be a defensive strategy that protects cash flow, supports family, and buys time to build stronger skills before making a larger career move. The fourth reason is that modern careers are harder to predict. The old model of learning one profession, joining one company, and staying secure for decades is disappearing across many industries. Technology changes quickly, automation expands, and business models keep shifting. A skill that once created a major advantage can become ordinary within a few years if a worker stops learning. A role that receives heavy demand today can lose value when customers change or a company shifts strategy. A long list of openings now is not a promise that the same job will remain secure 10 years from today. The paradox is that young adults want more stability while the market offers less absolute certainty. Even large respected companies can restructure when technology, competition, customer behavior, or economic conditions change. A long-term contract still has real value, but it cannot remove risk from markets, technology, or business competition. One document should be treated as a layer of protection, not the entire plan. What young workers truly want is not merely a permanent chair. They want confidence that they can continue living when the environment changes. Real security must exist both in the job and in the person's own financial and professional capacity. When every feeling of safety depends on one manager, one employer, or one paycheck, the structure is fragile. A single restructuring decision can overturn the entire system. Real stability includes emergency savings, skills employers value, professional relationships, controlled living costs, and enough flexibility to change direction. It is a layered system, not a single office chair. When a company changes, someone with transferable skills can carry value into a new environment. Someone who only knows one internal process may struggle to explain what they can contribute anywhere else. The goal is not to remain motionless forever. The goal is to build stability that can move like a vehicle with a solid frame, enough fuel, and responsive steering for the turns ahead. Adaptability does not mean chasing every trend. It means understanding principles, maintaining a learning habit, and watching the market closely enough to know which skills are gaining value and which are fading. The fifth reason is the information environment. Every day, people read headlines about recession, inflation, layoffs, artificial intelligence, and entire categories of work that may disappear. Human attention naturally prioritizes danger because detecting threats once helped us survive. In the digital age, however, the mind can absorb warnings from across the world within minutes and begin reacting as though every threat were nearby. A company in another country may announce layoffs, or an industry in a different market may slow down. Yet the reader can still feel personally threatened, even when the local situation is not the same. When uncertainty is repeated every day, people seek visible symbols of certainty. Fixed salaries, recognized employers, low volatility roles, and familiar schedules. These signals help the mind reduce its sense of chaos. But the feeling of stability and actual stability are not always the same. A job can feel familiar while the company loses customers and the worker's skills quietly lose market value. A paycheck may arrive on time every month and still fail to keep up with living costs. The person remains employed, but purchasing power weakens, so stability on paper no longer protects real life. If someone values today's comfort but ignores adaptability, short-term security can create long-term risk. When the role finally disappears, the worker may discover that the market moved ahead years ago. Stability can improve sleep, but too much comfort can stop learning. A person may stay for years only because starting again feels frightening, while tools, hiring needs, and work methods continue changing outside. The answer is not stability or growth. It is stability with growth. Keep dependable work while updating skills, appreciate fixed income while building savings, and understand how your value is changing in the market. Several weeks after the restructuring announcement, Ethan learns that his role will remain. Some coworkers are asked to leave. He feels relieved, but the old sense of safety is gone because he has seen how fragile it really was. Ethan realizes that having a job is not the same as being financially resilient. He thought regular pay meant stability. Yet, missing only 1 month of income would have placed his entire household system under pressure. He also sees that much of his experience is tied to internal processes. If he moved to another company, he might struggle to explain the value he creates. That is a warning sign that a career depends too heavily on one environment. Ethan once believed that being young meant having plenty of time, but he had no plan for a setback, did not know his minimum monthly cost, lacked a long emergency runway, and had not prepared a possible career transition. After the wake-up call, Ethan does not quit immediately, chase speculative investments, or search for a fast way to become rich. He chooses to repair the foundation first because a calm decision is usually stronger than an extreme reaction. The first thing Ethan does is calculate his minimum cost of living. He reviews 3 months of transactions and records housing, food, transportation, utilities, insurance, debt payments, and family support to learn the number he truly needs each month. Ethan discovers that several unnecessary expenses have become habits. Unused subscriptions, delivery meals chosen for convenience, and shopping used to relieve stress. He does not remove every pleasure. He separates genuine needs from temporary emotion. Next, Ethan sets a goal of building an emergency fund equal to 6 months of essential expenses. Every payday, he automatically moves part of his income into a separate account. The first transfers are small, but the habit is consistent. Ethan understands that an emergency fund will not make him rich quickly. It buys time. If he loses his job, he will not have to accept the first offer in panic and can instead compare options more carefully. If Ethan wants to change careers, savings can support training and a longer search. If his family faces an emergency, he can help without borrowing immediately. That is the practical value of financial security. It protects the right to choose. The next step is learning skills that work across many environments. Instead of only completing internal tasks, Ethan studies basic data analysis, improves his writing, learns new digital tools, and develops a stronger understanding of customer behavior. The next step is learning skills that work across many environments. Instead of only completing internal tasks, Ethan studies basic data analysis, improves his writing, learns new digital tools, and develops a stronger understanding of customer behavior. Ethan reconnects with people in his industry, joins professional communities, and watches hiring trends. He is not betraying his employer. He is learning how the wider market is changing and where his skills may be useful. Someone who checks their market value only when a job is already disappearing may be too late. A person who watches the market during stable periods has time to improve skills, update a resume, and prepare with less pressure. Nearly a year later, Ethan still works at the same company, but he is no longer holding on because of fear. He stays because the pay is reasonable and growth opportunities remain. That is the difference between being trapped and choosing to stay. Ethan's job is no more certain than before, but he is stronger because he has savings, skills, a network, and a plan. The strongest stability does not stop the world from changing. It increases the ability to handle change. The first lesson is to know your true minimum cost of living. Many people know what they earn, but not what they need to maintain housing, food, transportation, healthcare, insurance, debt payments, and family responsibilities. Once you know that number, build savings in stages. First 1 month, then 3 months, and eventually 6 months or more depending on your situation. A large goal becomes more manageable when divided into smaller milestones. Do not dismiss small savings. People without a fund often believe they must earn much more before saving. But if habits remain unchanged, higher income simply creates higher spending, and the safety margin stays at zero. The key is creating distance between income and essential costs, even if the gap is small at first. That gap is what funds emergency savings, debt reduction, skill building, and greater freedom of choice later. The next lesson is to invest in transferable abilities such as communication, sales, data analysis, project management, writing, languages, technology, and problem solving, because they can create value across many industries and employers. A specific tool may become outdated, but someone who understands the underlying principles can learn the next tool faster. You do not need to study everything at once. Choose one valuable ability and improve it consistently for several months. Avoid lifestyle inflation. After a raise, it is easy to move into a more expensive apartment, replace a working phone, and add premium services, then quickly treat those upgrades as unavoidable needs. Someone who earns $6,000 a month and spends $5,700 may be more fragile than someone earning $4,000 and needing only $2,800 to live. Strength comes partly from the gap between income and required spending. Building multiple layers of protection does not mean doing everything at once. First, protect the main income, build savings, control debt, and improve skills. Only then test a small, low-cost side income that does not damage health. Diversifying income is a good goal, but trying to work a full-time job, sell products, invest, create content, and freelance until exhaustion can threaten the most important income source. The goal is sustainability, not constant busyness. Pay attention to mental health. Fear of job loss can make people avoid rest, accept every request, and treat each mistake as proof they will be replaced. Preparation is useful. Nonstop anxiety is not. Young adults are not wrong to want stable work. It is a reasonable response to high costs and constant change. But stability does not mean remaining in one place forever. It means continuing to stand when circumstances move. Early financial freedom does not necessarily mean retiring forever or earning a huge passive income. It may simply mean losing a job and still having time to find a new direction, or facing an unexpected bill without borrowing. The important question is not only whether the current job feels stable. Ask what happens if it disappears. Would you still stand? If not, begin with one expense to reduce, one savings goal, and one skill to strengthen. Real security is built through hundreds of ordinary decisions repeated long enough. Let employment provide cash flow. Then use that cash flow to build a foundation, turn experience into portable ability, and preserve the capacity to adapt. Thank you for watching Financial Tutor. If this video helped you understand career anxiety and the practical path towards stronger security, subscribe, turn on notifications, and share it with someone who needs a calmer way to think about work and money.